So an update here from Adam
Yeah.
Schefter. Schefter just tweets moments ago, Patriots wide receiver Stefon Diggs, who's coming off a torn ACL, is on track to return for week 1 of the upcoming season.
Wow.
It was another reason why the Patriots felt comfortable giving Diggs the 3-year, $69 million deal that GM Elliott Wolf and Diggs' agent negotiated.
So
that changes things a little bit.
I'll say this.
We thought Kendrick Bourne was going to be back week 1. They said that as well, so we'll see what happens. But
I'll say this too. Like, being ready for week 1 doesn't mean you're going to play week 1. And we talked about this before, Mike, that Bourne talked about how important those 4 weeks were that he was on IR to get back in football shape. So.
He even said the first 4 weeks Bourne when he got back, like his first game back, he played, I think it was 20 snaps.
He didn't play a lot.
He what?
He ramped up. You're right.
Yeah, he added about 10 snaps per every week. He's like, it's going to take me a month to get fully back into football shape. So that's like a month since he got back on the field even.
I also don't think it's going to be a huge, as long as he can move, obviously, and feels like comfortable and isn't in his head. His role last year, again, he was beating zone. In the way that he wins at the top of routes, it's not necessarily being super explosive. It's just get in the guy's area, make him uncomfortable with a couple moves. Now, obviously, there's some drop-off because he's not going to be as explosive early on, but I still think he can be a productive player for them, again, in a specific role, as long as he's able to be out there on the field. I don't think there's going to be this level of, with Kendrick Bourne, I think there was a little bit of he was in his head and all that. And actually, no, he's never, it's going to be his first time working with Drake. So something just fell in my house. I don't know.
Hey, it was his first time working with Josh Allen in one season, and he made it out pretty well. It was his first time working with CJ Stroud last season, and he was fine until he tore his ACL. I know it takes some time, and the injury doesn't help, but it's hard not to be excited about this. It really is, especially with the potential outlook on the injury.
So let's go back to what we were talking about there before we got that update from Schefter. Taylor, where are you at with him in the locker room? And are you worried about maybe his personality? Do you think his personality can help? And do you think we've talked about how, why am I blanking on his name? The wide receivers coach.
Todd Downing.
Right. We've talked about how Todd Downing knows how to install an offense and put together an offense, but he's never hands-on coached wide receivers before. Can Diggs almost help? Can Diggs help with that and be more of a technical coach for some of these younger guys in addition to what he brings on the field?
Yeah, I think this is going to be the Morgan Moses signing basically for the wide receiver room. Maybe can translate a little bit, can talk to those guys and really show them again, this is how you do it at a high level. Morgan Moses isn't the same level as Diggs, but having worked with Trent Williams, just a little bit of extra credibility added onto there. So for the locker room, I think this is really, really perfect. Drake Maye, we know Drake's a football junkie. He wants to get better. He's constantly improving. That's the kind of quarterback I think Stefon's going to want to work with, where he's going to want to constantly be on the same page and, be able to help the relationship flourish as efficiently as possible. I think Drake's going to be on the same page. And then you've also got receivers in that room who don't have the most speed, but when they were at their best in college, went in similar ways to Stefon Diggs. So I think that can be a guy where they look at and be like, hell yeah, I would love to be anything close to Stefon Diggs, where yeah, maybe I'm not the most crazy athletic guy on the field, but I'm a dog at the end of the day, and showing them practice habits, how to take care of themselves, everything that Morgan Moses preached. And I feel like the only reason in his past that his personality has really been a problem is when he wanted targets. I think Albert Breer touched on that was really the issue in Buffalo his last year there, but he's going to be 32 years old. I don't think he's really going to be banging the door down for targets if there's clearly a younger guy who needs to develop as well. He has enough awareness to know that, if Jalen Polk is on a heater, I'm not going to sit here and pout because I'm not getting targets. So I really don't see the downside to this from a personality standpoint. I really only see this being positive for them, especially with a guy like Vrabel who knows how to deal with more, say, mercurial personalities.
Brian?
And I just go back, Taylor, you mentioned Drake. Go back last year, listen to CJ Stroud talk about Stefon Diggs multiple times, just how much he loved having him around, how much he's helped him grow as a quarterback. And that was CJ Stroud year 2. Here comes Drake Maye in year 2. He's similar style to Josh Allen, right? So Diggs has played with this kind of quarterback before. So I think he's going to do wonders for Drake Maye as well, off the field as obviously on the field. And then, yeah, there is some familiarity there. We mentioned Todd Downing, Josh McDaniels' brother Ben worked with Stefon Diggs. He was their wide receivers coach in Houston. So you imagine there was some conversation there, screening background. They held him in for a visit, so they got to know him a little bit better there. So I think they're definitely comfortable with the personality, and I think he will ultimately help the whole offense in that room.
And as it relates to Drake Maye, you guys did a good job on touching on the receivers. As it relates to Drake Maye, I know we disagree on this to an extent, but Josh Allen's turnaround lines up with when Stefon Diggs got to Buffalo. And maybe I give Diggs more credit for that than other people, but you can't say that that's an entire coincidence, that Diggs had nothing to do with that. I actually went back and found an old tweet of mine from that year that said Stefon Diggs is the best thing that's ever happened to Josh Allen. Again, Diggs, it was 5 years ago. Diggs maybe isn't the player he was then, but he's been through this. He's seen a quarterback through this. So I want him basically walking through the Josh Allen plan with Drake Maye. Stylistically similar, all of that. The comparisons are not new. I think that there's real synergy there. We'll see what happens with the receivers. I'm not worried about it there. Maybe this is just me. I'm more optimistic for what this signing means for Drake Maye, development-wise, not just in games, development-wise, than what it maybe means for the rest of the receivers.
I would agree with that. I mean, we've seen this happen since it really was one of my buddies who was not sold on it being Diggs here for the Patriots said when people said Drake Maye needs a Stefon Diggs, they didn't literally mean Stefon Diggs, but it's like Josh Allen, Stefon Diggs, and Tua Tagovailoa is Tyreek Hill, and I guess CJ Stroud, Stefon Diggs sort of last year. But there's been multiple
Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown.
Exactly. There's been examples of this where you kind of need a guy to get someone who can come in the room and be the number one target, and it kind of just flows out through the rest of the room. So I think again, if all goes according to plan, which the 3-year, $69 million deal tells me that the Patriots are confident this is gonna work out well. And I know that that's top end number, and maybe I'm looking too much into the contract because of what I guess a Cooper Kupp went for. But even still, I'm okay with it because they're comfortable with it. Because the reports said a couple weeks ago that they weren't too comfortable bringing in a diva number one wide receiver because of how that could shake out not only the wide receiver room, but for the rest of the roster. So clearly they don't see Stefon Diggs as that, and we can only trust them until we can't. And so I think it's going to be great for Drake Maye in the long run.
Also, Mike, really quick, I looked it up to see if Schefter had said anything about Bourne and his timeline. Bourne said that his goal was to come back for the first week. I don't know if anybody reported that was the case. And again,
I remember he told Andrew Callahan in a podcast.
No, I think it was Mayo that said it.
Oh. No.
I think Mayo had said something. I don't remember exactly. I might be wrong, but I remember there being a quote from Mayo about everybody that was on PUP had a chance to be ready for week 1 at the beginning of camp.
Okay.
Well, okay, that's that. Not surprising. But again, just kind of to add a little bit more potential optimism to this, that the fact that Schefter is saying, and again, he is repeating what agents tell him. We do not know for a fact that's going to be true, but at least maybe he can actually be out there and participate a little bit and get some rapport with Drake Maye. So, that's exciting that it won't take quite as long as we thought before. The Patriots had Christian Gonzalez and Drake Maye fall into their laps in consecutive first rounds. But could lightning really strike a third time and provide one or both of these young blue chip players' dynamic partner for the long term? Today, I'm breaking down cornerback / wide receiver Travis Hunter, whether or not he should be a lock for the Patriots if he falls to the 4th overall pick, and where exactly he should spend most of his time if he ultimately lands up in New England. Hunter played a nearly even split of corner and receiver during his junior year at Colorado, totaling 776 snaps on defense and 753 snaps on offense, according to PFF. Hunter ranked top 5 among FBS prospects in this draft with 96 receptions, 1,258 receiving yards, and 15 receiving touchdowns in 2024. Hunter excelled on vertical routes like goes and posts, where he adjusted to errant throws and was unaffected by contact or traffic. His 14 deep catches and 6 touchdowns were top 3 among FBS prospects, and he didn't record a single drop on targets of 20 or more air yards. Hunter also showed excellent ball tracking and downright arrogant hands, and both were on display on this highlight against Cincinnati. Hunter's press defender tries disrupting him early with the jam, but he isn't disrupted and shoots past the corner to win deep. The go ball is underthrown, but despite being clotheslined while trying to adjust, Hunter shows incredible focus to complete the catch for an and one along the sideline. With Colorado facing an improbable 3rd and 12, Hunter gets a target on a shallow crosser with room to work underneath. He quickly snatches a pass against his momentum and burns 2 bad angles from BYU defenders. He then sets up a closing linebacker for a juke, pulls away from a safety, and races down the field before ultimately throwing a stiff arm and heading out of bounds. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to become a member of Patriots Press Pass on YouTube to get full access to videos like this and much more really fun content. I cannot wait for you to see it.